Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Cape Crusader Cody, and we are keeping it geekly with our new friend, Brian Delaney. We're here to break down Dochas, Birth of the Dragon Conqueror, and everything in between. Welcome to the stream, Brian. How are you doing this morning?
Man, I'm doing super great, and that was a smooth intro.
Thank you. Many times of practicing. This is interview 225, so we've done it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping to do it quite a bit more, hoping, we get another 225, maybe 500 more.
But you even you pronounced my book correctly. You got my name in there. It was smooth. It was very smooth.
Impressive. I always like to think back, anytime it's you see the meme of people see the finished product and they don't see the work. Little do you know, I spent time listening to Google pronunciation. I do that every time. And that's why I hit you up. I'm like, hey, how do you pronounce this word? Because sometimes Google will be they'll give me the pronunciation in a totally different language. It's that's not how I say this.
Well, I was talking about this with my wife the other day. The word awry, it's spelled A-W-R-Y. And I, for years, I'm ashamed to say up until recently, I used to pronounce it Ari. And it was just because I always read it and I never connected it when someone said it. Audibly they said awry. I never connected it with that reading word of when I read it. But
macabre, I think there's an R in it, but you don't say the R. It's that makes no sense. Why?
Yes.
So, outside of pronunciations, give us a little bit about who you are. How'd you end up getting into comics?
So, I'm Brian Delaney. I've been interested in I've been in comics, loved comics since I was a little boy. Wanted to create comics since I got my first How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way book with John Buscema and Stan Lee. And I remember getting that book and trying to erase the drawings on the pages. I didn't understand how offset printing worked because it looked like they were pencil. So I'd pick a little corner that wouldn't matter and I tried to erase it. I've always wanted to draw comics, always wanted to write stories. And I've been doing it since I was a wee lad. And kind of reading comics, I ebbed and flowed. I grew up in a small town in New England, and so the only comics I had access to were whatever the pharmacy had. And I never got to read continuous runs.
Yeah.
It was Spider-Man 333 or 101, and then it was Spider-Man 110, and I never knew what happened in between. And then when I got into college, I got exposed to Frank Miller, of course. The Dark Knight was a rolling thing, and so was Alan Moore's The Watchmen. And that kind of changed a lot about comics. They definitely became darker. And they also, the storytelling, right? The storytelling, you had a lot of creators that were experimenting with storytelling, adding prose to books as well. And so discovered Katsuhiro Otomo, Akira, the Epic imprint. Again, I couldn't get that Epic imprint thing was a mess, and you couldn't find them. So I think I had one or two of those, but I loved his art. Then I kind of fell out of comics. I didn't collect them or go to stores. And in my job as a designer, I got the project to design the Death of Superman watch. And
what?
Yes, the Death of Superman
just
watch.
Casually just throw that out there.
No, it was Death of Superman watch. And so to do research, I went to the comic book store. It's the first time in years. And I really just like that. I don't know, when you go home, when you get that smell, that you smell home and you're like, oh, I'm home. It was I went in the comic book store and it felt really good. And I was kind of man, I miss this. And
they're like, Brian, stop smelling the books.
What's he doing over there? I don't know. He comes in every Wednesday. He's over in the corner just smelling things. I just don't. No, it was that. And so I got back into it, and then I just, I was for a while I was doing, trying to draw everybody in the mid 90s, the Jim Lees,
Hyperinflated, like super macho man.
Yeah, the muscly. And I was doing submission pages. I was going to cons, but I hated them, and it was agonizing working like that way. And,
was it like being surrounded by like all the people, or like what about it? Like
no, it was like drawing in that style, trying to draw in that superhero style. It was just not like, it didn't come natural to me. And I think there was also, this is pre-social media, so there was a lot of comparison too. I mean, if you're drawing something, like you're drawing Batman for a test page, you're comparing it to Jim Lee's Batman. I mean, there's no, at the time, that's what I was doing. And you're like looking at someone that draws 14, 15 hours a day and has done it for over a decade, and you're comparing your side hustle drawing where you're like, it isn't good enough.
So, man, the struggle though, I was there as a kid too, the incomplete runs. Like, I don't want to say these kids have it easy, nowadays, but you can look up some of those runs in between on your phone, and it is a game changer. Like, it was so hard. Like, and it makes me wonder if that's why, like, you didn't see, like, so, there was a lot more like runs where it wasn't like a super long run, a few issues here, a few issue there for the arcs, because like keeping like a long run in like full continuity would be like so hard, back in the day.
No, the distribution back in the day was not there, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I think they were ordering stock when they ran out of stock, and so whatever, God knows what kind of a form they had. Even you're a pharmacy, and you're like, do I want Hulk #1 or do I,
Xanax or Batman? Like, what's going on?
Exactly. I don't even know how that worked.
So you found yourself at a con and not really wanting to do superheroes. Like, how's that? I mean, that seems weird in the comic book world, right? Like,
yeah. Well, I was like thinking, all right, I'm going to try to break in as a penciler, and then when I break in, I'll start to find an audience for my art, and then I'll start to do my own own stuff. Well, started to realize pretty quick after going to cons and listening to like the Scotty Youngs of the world talk, you're like, there's no time to do anything on the side if you're penciling a book regularly. I mean, pencilers, inkers, they work crazy amounts of hours to get a page done. So I was like, and I really don't like the superhero genre. Like, I want, the ultimate goal is to write my own characters anyways. And so I just kind of had this epiphany, like, I need to just write my own stuff. So I started writing my own stuff. The problem is I didn't want to share it because I was super insecure about it. So finally, here I am. I'm talking to you, and I'm promoting something that has finally come together. And, I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. But
so, I mean, man, how was it? Like, how'd you end up breaking out of that shell? Like, is this like booking interviews like the first step, or like what did you do to kind of work your way out of that? Because I mean, you surely can't be the only one out there. I'm sure there are tons of other creators who are in the same spot right now. So like, what worked best for you?
So one thing I did is I bought a URL and I created a little WordPress site, and I started putting up weekly webcomics that I wrote and drew. And I kind of tried to keep it scalable in the sense that, like, I remember I'd be at lunch for my day job at a Wendy's. There was a Wendy's near where I worked, and I'd be like eating the chicken nuggets and penciling those panels. And I'd set it up so it was like a 5-panel strip, like you'd see in the Sunday paper or a daily paper, to kind of keep it simple. And just doing that for a number of years. I mean, I was very intermittent with it. I tried to stay with it, and I did put out a decent amount of content. But that was like a lot of confidence building for me. I mean, I didn't get a huge amount of traffic to my site, but just putting it out there was like, I think a cathartic thing, You
kind of got like used to it, right? Like got used to the motion.
I got used to it, and I started to get comfortable with like, no one's trying to beat me up because my art stinks. So I guess I'm doing all right here. I'm gonna keep putting it out there.
And I remember those days. It was kind of the same thing with me, like with podcasting. I remember reading books like on lunch. So that way when I got home after work, I could record a podcast about them. And like that hustle, that mentality, like just doing it in your free time. Like, I think it kind of like reinforces like, this is like what you're like almost like meant to do, right? Like in your head, like you're like,
it really does.
Like
It's
I'm
a
doing
passion,
this. Yeah, I'm getting
right?
this
I
done.
mean,
Like,
it's a passion. You're doing this because you have obviously a passion for
hmm
it. I mean, it's and that's really what I'm doing. I have a passion for it. I mean, if one person reads my book and really loves it, then mission accomplished. Um, you know, the goal is to just keep writing and keep publishing and try to keep it in the black, in the sense that I'm not like, running into constant like profit loss type things. So we'll
hmm
see.
So, speaking of this book, this has a rather interesting format. We were talking a little bit backstage about it. Can you give us a little bit more about what this book is about? And like we were talking, it's like such a nice balance of like being like an actual book and like teetering on that line of being a comic book, like both together. And I've never seen anything like that. It was like really, really cool experience.
Dude, thanks. Yeah, so the name of the book is called Dochas, Birth of the Dragon Conqueror, and it's a high fantasy YA young adult type comic. It's a graphic novel, and the story, the logline is: dragons rule over humankind until a teenage girl with the power to slay them comes of age and must leave all she loves on a fateful journey of self-discovery, pursuing a destiny she never wanted. Oh, sorry, I was just pause. That's so beautiful.
We gotta have like
No,
some sort of like eagle screeching in the background or something.
that'd be amazing. No, it is a mix, as Cody, as you said, it's a mix of prose and comic pages. And there are a couple of reasons why I did this. And this has been an experiment. So I just want you all to know, I think I started this in 2015.
hmm
I think drew the first drawing of her. In fact, I've got the first drawing of her right here. There you
Oh
go.
wow, that
That's
is
the first.
completely different.
It's completely different. And this was the drawing I did, and I started to ask questions like, and I was really trying to be, I don't know. And then I did this. I'll show you this before you go away. I'm sorry. I'm making you, whoa. Maybe not. No,
It's too bright. Oh, there we go. There. Oh,
wait.
hold on. Oh.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's,
if you hold it
and
like
then I
that.
do this, which is more true to what you kind of see in the
I like
book.
how she's wearing the helmet. The
Yeah,
helmet, like
so
stayed.
it's like a skateboard helmet.
Yeah.
So I drew her as this teenage girl skateboard helmet with a dragon skull, and I started to ask questions like, why would she be wearing that? What is she doing? What is she this? What is she that? And as I started to ask those questions, a story started to kind of come to light. And so I experimented with a lot of things. I did the first like 14 pages that are in the book. I knocked them out pretty quick, and it was all comics. And then I was speaking at like a library event locally, and one of the people at the library event was like, "Oh, are you making it like an illustrated novel?" And I was like, "Illustrated novel?" And they were referring to that Japanese format. And I wasn't aware of that. I was like, "Huh, interesting." But so unaware, I started to think, what if it was a novel and a comic book? And so I started to play with that. And there were a couple advantages. One, comics really stink at world building. And I don't say stink, I say it respectively. But it takes a lot of artwork, and it takes a lot of tiny captions of exposition to build the world. I think we both agree, especially if it's a fantasy world or a science fiction world. And that's something that prose novels handle really well, because you can say in one paragraph, hey, it's a world ruled by dragons and human beings are their subjects.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you don't have to, but the other part of it was the acting. Like I love in the comic books, the acting part of the characters, where their expression and then what they're saying or doing can kind of be different, can be at conflict with each other. And so mixing those two, I've been playing with that format, and this is the version that I think is the most successful. And I've been playing like with little like preview comics that I take to a local library con and like kind of get people's feedback, ones that I'd send to friends, and sort of been tuning it, and finally feel like I'm at a point where you have this experience where it goes from prose to comics, from prose to comics, back and forth, and it is meant to be read that way. And it kind of, they feed and kind of bounce off of each other. And I think it's a nice experience. I don't know what diehard comic fans are going to think,
Mhm.
and I don't know what diehard book fans are going to think. But
Well, it sounds
we'll
like you're
see.
balancing the best of both worlds, right? Because like even with books,
Trying.
sometimes you have to take a whole page to describe what a character is doing when you could just show
Yes.
that in a couple panels.
Exactly. So that's kind of what I tried to do, is fashion the story where it uses the strengths that I want to use at that time, to kind of, if it's introspective stuff, then I'm using the prose.
Mhm.
If it's like you said, study subtle language things that are going on, or subtle things that are going on with the picture, like, oh, there's a little thing going on up in here, to create intrigue. I'm doing that with the comics.
No, that's awesome. And real quick, guys, this is in pre-launch. You can go ahead and follow it. We're trying to get to at least 35 followers, so please make sure you follow and share this on
That'd be
Facebook
awesome.
and Twitter. Yeah, word of mouth is 100% free. Planning on going live in January, so I think right now would be a perfect segue. We have an awesome opportunity to look at the first like couple page or two with
That'd be
Brian.
awesome.
So let's do this. And this is Brian's first interview, so we could say this is kind of like an exclusive look.
It is an exclusive look. It is. This is the ARC. This is the advanced reader copy, and this is the digital version. So anybody out there that's a reviewer, if you just DM me on Twitter, and if you want to get a physical copy or a digital copy, I can hook you up.
We have Lee Newman over on YouTube, just followed and shared. Brian's work is amazing. I'll be waiting all year for next Dogtober. This mixed media approach to storytelling sounds brilliant.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
I
you so
really
much.
think it's awesome, man. All right, so let's go ahead and move over here. And you said the name had a really interesting meaning behind it.
Yeah. So when I was trying to come up with building the world, I looked at Gaelic. I was reading a book of Celtic mythology, if you can believe it. I found it is like, Celtic mythology is very cool. If you've never read it, I would recommend it. They're crazy stories. But I was reading that and I was like, doing some research into what would be a cool character name. And Dochas is Gaelic for the word hope. And so I thought that would be a really cool name, because she's kind of this a heroine that doesn't want to be a heroine.
Mhm.
And I want to say also, this is about this is a lot about dads and daughters, and daughters and dads. I have a 20-year-old daughter, and I think there's a lot of this because it is YA. There's a lot of this trying to find yourself versus what your parents think you should be, or what your parents expect you to be. And as you'll see in this book, those of you that read it, there's an interesting situation in her life where she actually has two families. So, and I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to ruin it, but she has two families. So both of these families have different ideas of what her life should be about.
So I really like this too, her walking, and then we have like the blood trail of the sword.
Yes.
So is this like after slaying a dragon, or like what's going on
It's after slaying a dragon, and it's like I tried to capture here her doing something she doesn't want to do. I think we have a lot of heroes where they're like, yeah, I just slayed a dragon, I'm a badass. All she feels is remorse. And so that's another part of it too. And this is kind of like, they put like an author picture, I did a self-portrait of me. These are some of the characters I've created and written. A lot of them you've never seen, and they're in a drawer.
Got the Crocs with the socks. Gotta have
I got
comfort.
the Crocs with the socks, man. And it's really just kind of like them rooting me on. You know what I mean? Like, wow, he's finally going to do it. And even in that little, I don't know what you call it, author intro there, it's like there's so many people that have just been waiting for me to do something.
Dragons must die.
Dragons must die, because it's all about like in the book, the dragons, they are holding humankind down. They rule over them and they're oppressing them. And I think that, in our lives, I know we all face insecurities. We face maybe there's health issues. There's all sorts of things in our lives that come against us. And kind of make us feel like hopeless or whatever. And so this is kind of like dragons must die. It's kind of a metaphor for those things in our lives that are holding us back. They need to die. So, yeah.
No, I like that a lot. I was gonna say, man, it sounds like you either played a lot of Skyrim or watched a lot of Game of Thrones.
I've never watched Game of Thrones, and I listened to the soundtrack. The soundtrack is a lot of this book has been written to the soundtrack. To Jawadi's soundtrack. I think that's how you pronounce it.
I think that's hilarious. You listen to the soundtrack, but didn't watch it. I've never seen the show either. I just know there's a lot of like sex and a lot of dragons in it.
Yeah, that's what I knew too. It's like the minute you hear it's on HBO, you go, "Oh, okay." There's going to be a lot of like
some clapping cheeks. Okay, all
yes,
right.
And there's going to be and it may mean something to the story. It may not. We don't know. It's HBO. So these are kind of intro pages. This is the first real page. This is a spread. So you can kind of see, I did a couple things here. One is I hate boring world building. I'm a huge fantasy fan. I hate it when there's a bunch of text that kind of says, well, back in the ages, they did this and this. And so what I did is I kind of created this little glossary on the side. And there are illustrations that I did to kind of make it more interesting and to kind of give the reader, a little bit more insight. And it kind of does the heavy lifting of all this stuff. And it's told from the point of view of historians. So I made up a bunch of fictional historians that are all in the dragons camp. And so they write propaganda for the dragons. And that's what humankind is fed. So all of this is propaganda that you're reading in the left column. And then the right column is actually the story. And it starts off just like a normal fantasy book would. And then it jumps right into the next page, which is a panel of comic books.
This is gorgeous too. I'm loving these interiors.
Thank
and we
you,
got
man.
Lee Newman saying, "Oh my God, I love this."
And then it's the same thing.
Gorgeous.
Well, thank you all. That's super awesome. That's super encouraging. So it's going to do this kind of a yin yang thing throughout the book. And then there's stretches of lots of comic panels where it didn't make sense to go back to prose. And we won't show those here in this because it'll spoil too much.
Yeah.
So if you're a fan of illustrated books, if you're a fan of prose books, if you're a fan of YA high fantasy, my friend at the comic book store, he said he had a great. I have it in the preview page of my Kickstarter. Like you can't see it, but I have it there. He gave me this quote. It's if Game of Thrones was a Nickelodeon show.
I like that.
So that's kind of what's about. If you're into that kind of stuff, that's what this will be.
Yeah, this is awesome. I think, dude, was it hard to balance the two?
It's been an experiment. It's been like, and those people in my Facebook group that I've been following for a long time, they've seen the different iterations of it. And as a designer, that's what I do for my day job. I did a lot of research into what popular novel, prose, how many words per line should you have, the spacing to make it as readable as possible. And so there's a lot of that going on, but yeah,
this scene in particular, where the fire is reflecting off their skin, this is gorgeous, Brian. I'm loving this.
Thank you.
The S for the sizzling in this right here, in the water and such. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is great, man. So you are going live in January. Any idea of a price point for the book, or is that something that is spoiler territory?
The price point for the book, it's going to be probably sub $20. It's
that's not bad at all.
Let me show you this. Actually, got some here. So this is the book. It's So it's 9 by 12.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Thank you. And to give you some idea, here's DC's Black Label. Back up a little bit.
Oh, so it's big too.
Yeah, it's big. It's 9 by 12. So it's bigger than DC's Black Label. And then here is it compared to a regular floppy. Sorry, I got my left and my right all.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
So that's kind of you can see the size difference. So it's a giant book. It's 9 by 12. It's 40 pages. Yeah. I mean, so it's going to be sub $20. That's the goal. And I'm doing a lot of, I'm really working on a lot of cool digital rewards. And I'll reveal more maybe if we get to chat closer to the launch of it. I'll be able to show some of those, but it's going to be pretty cool. So I'm hoping to incentivize people instead of them just getting I just got a PDF of the book, where they really get something that adds some value to it. So we'll see.
No, that is awesome, guys. Once again, here is the link to this. Be sure to follow. We're trying to get this up to 35 followers by today. And if you're able to, share it on Facebook and Twitter. Word of mouth is 100% free. Man, Brian, this was an awesome chat. I appreciate you coming on here and breaking it down and giving us that, nice look at it. This was such an awesome experience. Before we go, though, I always love ending on a strong note, and that's asking any creator that comes on for a little bit of advice for anyone who might be new. So for anyone who is just starting, whether with writing or with art, anything in between, what advice would you offer them to help them get motivated just to get started with it?
I would say, just maybe the best step would be to have what I call an ugly notebook, an ugly sketchbook. And it's a sketchbook that has really great stuff in it and really bad stuff in it. And when you're drawing at that coffee shop, or you're out on the bus driving home and you're drawing and you're sketching, and someone says, "Oh, can I look at your sketchbook?" Give them the whole sketchbook, the ugly and the good, and let them kind of go through it. I think it's too much. We see the polished, finished stuff everywhere, and we say, "Oh man, they're amazing. They just drew that and it just came out of them." And there are some people that are like that. But I think that if you're a creator and you're feeling apprehensive about sharing your stuff, that was one thing that I did that really helped, was just having a good, the bad, and the ugly kind of sketchbook. That you hope they turn to the great pages, but more than not, they turn to the really bad pages. And
just don't linger too long.
Yeah, no, but they'd say things like, "Oh, these are really great." And you'd be like, "Wow, I really hate that page," to yourself.
Yeah.
So I would try that. I would try that. And then just putting it out there. Social media is a great place to put it out there. I wish you the best with it. I mean, I've been pursuing this dream for years. So, and I'm not giving up. So that would be my other advice, is if it's something you really, really want to pursue, just keep going.
No, that's awesome. And I think that is some very sound advice as well. You got to keep, you never know how close you are to breaking through. It's like that one little picture of the guy with the pickaxe that walks away right when he's like one strike from hitting the diamonds.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. No, Brian, thank you so much. This has been an awesome chat, guys. Be sure to follow it. Once again, here is the link. It is a beautiful Thursday. Make sure it is even more lovely by following this campaign. With that being said,
don't forget to follow Cody.
Hey, we just hit 700 subscribers. Guys, once again, we have this Lego Millennium Falcon we're going to be building at 750. So 50 more subs, we're going to be building this thing live. It's going to be awesome. Everyone watching, it is a beautiful Thursday. Follow this campaign. Be sure to subscribe to me, but most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.